Ubuntu. We were winding down our discussion when Roberta, the person with whom I was doing a podcast, hit me with it. Ubuntu. Ubuntu is a Zulu word meaning humanity, and she was using it in reference to our conversation about the Golden Rule, specifically the evolution of it to the Platinum Rule, which I talked about last week. She explained that the concept of Ubuntu means that strangers do not exist in Zulu culture. For example, if you're traveling from one place to another, you never need to pack anything or worry about where you're going to stay. You just knock on the door and you will be welcomed in. You'll be given a place to sleep, food to eat that evening, and the next day given food for your journey. This is what Ubuntu means in Zulu culture. How does it apply in my life, Ubuntu? So one of the things I thought about after that discussion is my dad. My dad escaped communism in 1956. He was 19 years old. He left in the dark of night and somehow landed, along with a lot of other refugees, in England. He didn't know a word of English, but somehow he managed to master the language, get a university degree as a mechanical engineer, and work in England. It's pretty amazing, actually. And I think about that in reference to this conversation of Ubuntu. This notion that the British welcomed my dad, along with a lot of other Hungarian refugees, during 1956. And for that, I'm so grateful and so appreciative, because without that, who knows where his path might have led. So the British practiced Ubuntu towards my dad, and that's how it's worked in my own life. So fast forward to today, and what we see now is a new wave of people seeking refuge. Right now, it's Ukrainians. Women, children, the elderly. People are fleeing in the face of all the danger that is happening there, the war that's going on. We have lots of Ukrainians here in Canada, and they're coming here right now as we speak. I know of many people who are either hosting families, organizing behind the scenes, and so many Ukrainian organizations are working feverishly, anticipating their arrival, trying to find the things that we talk about with Ubuntu: food, shelter, getting kids into school, all these things, the community that is rallying to support them. And to be fair, it's not just Ukrainians, it's all sorts of people rallying around Ukrainians who are today's version of my dad from 1956 seeking refuge. Moving forward, how can we apply Ubuntu in our own lives? How can you apply it in your life? Well, I was thinking about that, thinking about my dad, Ukrainians today, and there's so many other groups we could talk about. I'm just touching on these two. But I realized that Ubuntu is greater than how we treat strangers. It's also about how we treat our friends. So if we look at this concept of Ubuntu, humanity, where the concept of stranger doesn't exist, we come back to this discussion of, again, the Golden Rule and the Platinum Rule. Treating others the way we want to be treated, treating others the way they want to be treated. Under the Ubuntu scenario, it is greater than that. We're talking about what Gary Zukov talks about in Universal Human, when he talks about the idea of the group or community. We're not talking about just Ukrainians or just Hungarians. We're talking about all of humanity. This is the evolution of Ubuntu today. So I leave you with that thought. I think it's something for us all to consider, and I'd like you to consider Ubuntu in your own life. How can you apply Ubuntu in your own life? Email me, let me know. I'd love to hear it. Thanks.